This is a book called They Came Before Columbus, The African Presence in Ancient America. This is by Ivan van Sertima. This was published in 1976 by Random House. We're going to go to page 88. We're going to look at what we were speaking concerning about the sorcerers. Okay, who are these sorcerers? If we are talking about the Phoenicians and the Egyptians worked together. And if the Phoenicians and the Egyptians worked together, that means that they shared ideas, they shared customs, they shared many things. One of the things that they shared was witchcraft, something that we call it today, but in those days, they may have called it sorcery. So we're going to go down here, we're going to read page 88, and we're going to read the third paragraph. It reads, "Many other analogies of a general nature may be noted, but let us confine ourselves to one on the same level of specificity as the rainmaking rituals. The creation of effigies or magical images, often of enemies, in the belief that to injure or destroy the image is to effect a like injury or destruction upon enemy himself. For thousands of years, this was known to the sorcerers of Egypt and was widely practiced in Africa." A lot of us know this today as voodoo. It reads here, "The North American Indians employed the same ritual of pricking or piercing the dolls," going into voodoo. So this is what the sorcerers were into, voodoo and rainmaking against their enemies. Let's jump over to page 89, and we're going to start here where it says, "These practices. These practices are of great antiquity in Africa. An Egyptian wizard was prosecuted in 1200 BC for making effigies of men and women in wax, thereby causing paralysis of their limbs and other grievous bodily harm." So what are these? These are their sorcerers. The Phoenicians had sorcerers on every ship where they did explorations. All right, since we're talking about the sorcerers and we're talking about how the Phoenicians and Egyptians swapped ideas and customs and theories, here's a book called Black Athena. Black Athena, The Afro-Asiatic Roots of Classical Civilization. This is volume 1 by Martin Bernal. This book was published in 1987 by the Free Association Books, Rutgers University Press. All right, so this is page 122, and I want to go here just to show you how everything was intertwined. The countries that were conquered by Greece, like Persia and Egypt and Phoenicia and Tyre and these countries in the north part of Africa, they were under the hands of the Grecians, who controlled the majority of their thinking, and controlled the majority of their thinking by giving them instructions to follow unless they be ousted out of their land. So this is page 122. It says, "These two acts of violence mark the end of Egypto-paganism and the beginning of the Christian Dark Ages." So we're going to the beginning of, before the Christian Dark Ages even began, and leaving the Egypto-paganism, all right? Because a lot of Israelites left Persia Instead of going to build up the walls in Jerusalem with Nehemiah and Esdras, some, as we read in 2 Esdras chapter 13, left by ship, whereas others went to Egypt. Okay? And so when they went to Egypt, they didn't see the future on what was going to happen, that the Greeks were going to take over. And those who went back to their jobs working on the coast, along with the Phoenicians, got overran by the Grecians. So let's drop down. This is the collapse of Egypto-pagan religion. I want to go to the second paragraph. It says, at a broader level, it can be argued that with the anomia and the breakdown, let me zoom out, and the breakdown of traditional local structures in the Hellenistic and Roman empires, there was a natural tendency towards monotheism, a heavenly reflection of terrestrial world empires. This would be demonstrated first by the enormous expansion of Hebrewism, but they say Judaism, because it wasn't a religion, largely through proselytizing. Throughout the Mediterranean after 300 BC, indeed, by the middle of the first century AD, Jews formed between 5 and 10% in the population of the Roman Empire. In 116 to 17, however, there was a huge revolt in the diaspora. For greater than the better known ones of the Zealots and Bar Kokhba in Judea of 66 to 70 and 132 to 135 AD. So this is right in between 200 BC to around 135 AD. It reached the diaspora revolt was followed by genocidal repression in Cyprus, Cyrene, and above all, Alexandria, which completely destroyed the brilliant culture of Hellenized Jewry. All right. Even before that, going into the Phoenician times, even before that, although Jews formed a considerable proportion of the population of Egypt, Judaism or Hebraism was too foreign to absorb Egyptian culture, like the Indians and Chinese in the 19th and 20th century colonial empires, or the later Jews in Eastern Europe. The Egyptian Jews were middlemen between the ruling Greeks and the Egyptian people. So the Jews had a lot of influence on both parties. And in all these cases, it suited the rulers well to maintain tensions between the natives and the Alleghenies, the foreign middle class. Thus, for the rest of the 2nd century and beyond, the elimination of the Jews meant that Christianity, which in any event was more loosely tied to a particular people, had no serious rival as a proselytizing religion. Okay, so all this was circumventing around the same time. So the duties that were carried out were in between these times. And when we read in the next book, you'll see how these sorcerers piggybacked along into the Americas to deal with their brothers in the Americas. This book is called Jews in America, or Probabilities that the Americans are of that race, with the removal of some contrary reasonings and earnest desires for effectual endeavors to make them Christian. By Kissinger Publishing, Rare Mystical Reprints. Okay. This book was written by Thomas Thurgood. This is page 129 And this is about the 12 tribes in the Americas. It reads, the relation of Master Anton Monterinos, translated out of the French copy sent by Manasseh ben Israel. Now I'm going to read this whole thing because I've been pondering and going back and forth with what I should omit and what I shouldn't omit, but honestly, the whole thing should just come out. So I'm going to be doing a lot of reading in this segment. And this is important. This is going to show you that the 12 tribes of Israel, that some were here in the Americas. And we'll start with the paragraph. It says, the 18th day of Elul, in the year 5404 from the creation of the world, came into the city of Amsterdam Mr. Aaron Levi, alias Anton Monterinos, and declared before me Manasseh ben Israel and divers other chief men of the Portugal nation, near to the said city that which followeth. About 2 years and a half ago, the said Monterinos, going from the port of Honda in the West Indies, to go to the government of Papian in the province of Onentu, did hire from mules of a certain Indian mystique called Francis de Chateau, in which company together with other Indians, when a certain owner of mules, who was also called Francis, whom all the Indians named Kakik, to whom it fell out, passing over the mountain Cordelia in a day of great wind and rain, that their carriages fell to the ground, whereat the Indians being grieved, as also at the evil weather, they began to complain of their ill fortune, saying that they deserved all that and more also for their sins. Which the said Francis hearing answered that they should have patience, that shortly they should have rest. Whereunto they answered that they delivered it not, how they used the holy people so ill, and the most notable of all nations in the world, but contrary, that all the cruelties which the Spaniards had used against them did befall unto them for the expiating of that sin. After they were gone a little while, they flopped upon the mountain in rest, and passed the night season, at which time the said Monterinos did take out of a box some few biscuits, some cheese and sweetmeats, and offer some to the foresaid Francis, saying to him, take this, though thou dost speak evil of the Spaniards, that he had not told the half of the hard usage which they received from the cruel and inhumane nation, but that after a short space they should see themselves avenged upon them by a hidden nation. After these discourses between them, Mr. Monterinos arrived at the town of Cartagena in the Indies, where he was taken by the Inquisition and put in prison. One day, praying unto God, he uttered these words, blessed be the name of Adonai, that he have not made me an idolater, a barbarian, an Ethiopian, nor an Indian. And pronouncing the name of Indian, he reproved himself, saying, the Hebrews are Indians. And the coming again to himself said, am not I a fool? How can it be that the Hebrews should be Indians? The same fell out the second and the third day, making the same prayer and giving the same thanks unto the Most High, whence he gathered that fancy did not come to him, by mere chance. Remember also that which puffed between him and the aforesaid Indian. So this is what we read in Lost Tribes of Promised Lands. So that he took an oath he would so inform himself of the whole matter, that he should know the truth, and the coming out of prison he should instantly seek the Indian, and would bring to his mind the discourse which they had together, to obtain by that means the satisfaction of his desires. Being then come out of a portion by the goodness of God, he went to the forenamed port of Honda, where he had so much good luck that he found instantly the foresaid Indian, to whom he had made his application, and brought into his memory the discourse which they had upon the mountain, whereunto he answered that he had not forgotten it. When Monterinos, hearing, said that he would go a journey with him, to which he answered that he was ready to do him service. So the said Monterinos gave him 3 pataks to buy some provision. Whilst then they followed their journey and talked together. The said Monterinos at last discovered himself unto the said Indian, and told him in these words, I am a Hebrew of the tribe of Levi, of my God Adonai, and all the rest are nothing but mistakes and deceits. Whereat the Indian, being somewhat surprised, did ask him the name of the predecessors. Wherefore he did answer that they were called Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Israel. Which the Indian hearing did ask of him whether he had none other father. He said, yeah, and that he was called Ludwig of Monterinos. But the Indian, being not well satisfied at yet, said these words unto him, on the one side I did rejoice at that which thou hast said unto me, and on the other I am resolving to disbelieve thee, because thou canst not tell me who were thy fathers. Whereunto the said Monterinos answered with an oath that the thing which he said was truth, having spent some time in question and answers. And the Indian, being wearied at the matter, laid to him, art thou not the son of Israel? To which he answered, yea. Which the Indian, having heard, said, make an end then of the speech, for certainly thou didst put me in such confusion that I would have been perplexed at it all my lifetime. Nevertheless, let us rest a little and drink, and then follow on our discourse. After a little space, the Indian said unto him, if thou have the courage and boldness to follow me, thou shalt know all what thou desirest. But I tell thee beforehand, thou must go afoot and eat roasted maize, corn, and do that which I shall bid thee. The said Monterinos answered that he would not at all transgress his orders. The day following, which was Monday, the Indian came to the said Monterinos and bid him to take out all that which he had in his pockets, put on the apogatas. These are certain sort of shoes which the Indians wear, and take the staff and follow him, which the said Monterinos did, leaving his cloak and his sword and all that he had. And so they followed on their way, the Indian carrying on his back 3 measures of roasted maize, 2 ropes, the one made with knots and hook with 2 teeth to climb up by the mountain, and the other untied, to make use of in the marshes and passages of the rivers, with the little axe and the apogatas. They went then after the manner the whole week till Saturday, on which they rested, and returned to follow the course the whole Sunday and Monday. On Thursday about 8 of the clock they came to a river as broad as the duck row in Spain. And the Indians said unto him, Thou shalt here see thy brethren, and making a flag of 2 pieces of cotton, clove which were their girdles, made a figure, after which they saw a great smoke. And in a moment afterward the same sign with another flag. And it was not long after that they saw in a boat coming to them 3 men and 1 woman. While being arrived to the bank of the river, the woman leaped ashore, and the men tarried in the boat, which after a long discourse which she had with the Indian, which the said Matarinos could not at all understand, went back to the boat, and told the 3 men all that she had heard of the Indian, which came instantly out of the boat, having always a look with attention upon him. The said Matarinos and did embrace him, and the woman did the like. After this, one of the 3 men went back again to the boat, and the other together with the woman did stay there, which coming near unto the Indian, he did prostrate himself at their feet. And they received him with demonstrations of civility and affection, and began to take with him. After a little while the Indian said to Matarinos, Be not amazed, and do not believe that these men will tell thee a second thing, before thou hast well understood the first. The 2 men instantly put him between them, and told him the very following in Hebrew, out of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Shemai Yasharallah Adonai Elohim Adonai Ahud. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one. And he, informing himself of everything by the Indian interpreter, and learning to say it in the Spanish tongue, the 2 men told him that which followeth, putting a little space of time between one sentence and another. So this is giving you a little bit more than what we read in Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. My fathers are called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Yasharallah, Israel. And they named them all 4 with 3 fingers. And then they added Reuben, making a sign with 4 fingers. See that? This is page 134. All such as will come and dwell with us, we will give them lands. Joseph dwells in the midst of the sea, making a sign with 2 fingers shut, and afterwards dividing the same into 2 parts. We shall all one day speak together, uttering with the mouth, Ba, 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 and shall come forth. The earth hath brought us forth. We shall go out from hence shortly, speaking hastily, some of us to look out and to make water, and saying these words, they wink with their eyes and thrust their feet to the ground. A messenger shall go. Francis shall say somewhat more, making a sign with his fingers that it would be a little. Give us time to make ourselves ready. And shaking their hand on all sides, said with their mouth and with their hands, Stay not long. Send 12 men, making a sign that all shall have beards and be able to write. These discourse being all ended, which lasted all that day, they came back and told them the same Wednesday and Thursday, not adding a word more thereunto. And Matarinos, being wearied, that they answer him nothing to that which he asked, and that they would not permit him to pass the river, did draw near the boat in a dissembling way, and would have cast himself therein to go to the other side. But they thrust her from the shore with a staff, and said, Martirinos, falling into the water, he was in danger of being drowned because he could not swim. The men cast themselves suddenly into the water and drew him out, and showing themselves angry, said unto him, Do not think that thou wilt bring to pass thy purpose by force, which the Indian declared unto him. And they showed unto him by signs and words. Notice is to be taken that the boat for the space of those 3 days did not at all stay in one place, but 4 men went and 4 others came, which all of them said the same 9 things which we have mentioned, being all the men who dating that time came to see him, about 300 more or less. So 300 men came out. Or was it just 3 people? As we read in Lost Tribes in Promised Land. These were all Hebrews. They knew who they were. They knew they were from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Yasharallah. They knew that they were from Judah, and they knew that they were from Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. A small percentage of the Israelites here in the Americas. These men are somewhat burnt with the sun. Some of them wear their hair to their knees, some others shorter, and others as we used to wear it. Fair bodies, good countenances, well made of foot and leg, with a linen about their heads. What does fair bodies mean? Handsome bodies. Not white bodies, handsome bodies. Remember, it says here, these men are somewhat burnt with the sun. All right? Moreover, it said Martirinos declared that going from that place on Thursday at night, with a great deal of provision, which they brought to him, he took his leave of them, having been entertained by them during the 3 days which he stayed there, and having showed him how they enjoyed all things which the Spaniards have in the Indies, as well of meats as of other things needful for the life of a man. Being come the same day to the place where they had lying the night before, Martirinos said to the Indian, Francis, thou doest know that my brethren said unto me, that thou shouldest tell me something. Therefore I pray thee, tell it now to satisfy my desire. Whereunto the Indian said, I shall tell thee what I know, if thou wilt not anger me, and shall relate unto thee the truth, so as I have heard it from my ancestors. But if thou do vex me, which I apprehend, perceiving thee to be so speculative, thou wilt oblige me to tell thee lies. So then, I beseech thee, take only heed to what I shall say unto thee. So he's about to tell him a story about the Israelites. So now I'm about to show you the conclusion of the matter. And what I mean by conclusion, we know this verse right here in II Esdras chapter 13, verse 39, where it says, And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. And as we keep reading, we're going to see what land they went into. It says, But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, passing through Africa. And the same region is called Arseraph. This is the region where they got to after they passed Africa. Then dwelt they there unto the latter time, and now, when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. Now, what I'm about to do is show you where they went and the testimony of them coming into the Americas. As we left off in Jews in America or probabilities that the Americans are of that race, we're going to finish up on page 136. I'm going to try to read this the best way I can. It says, "Thy brethren, thy sons of Israel, were by divine providence brought into these countries, God doing many miracles for them, which thou wouldest not believe if I should tell them to thee as I have heard them of my fathers. We Indians went into those countries and made war against them, and did use them worse than the Spaniards do us. Afterwards, by the command of our Mohannas, our chief, these are their sorcerers, we went as soldiers toward those parts where thou hast seen thy brethren, to wage war with them. Of all those that entered there, not one came back again alive. We made a great army, and entering into his lands, all fell down dead, so that not one escaped. At last we rallied another army, for making of which the country was dispeopled wholly, so that none but old men, women, and children remained therein, which came to an end, as the former had done, which those who remained alive and were not gone to that war, perceiving, said that the Mohannas had deceived them, and were the cause of the death of their fathers, for which they deserved to be put to death, having then killed many of them. Those that remained alive did entreat them to hearken to them, and they would discover to them all the truth of that which they knew, which having gotten leave, declared that which followeth." So these Israelites came into the Americas and made war. It says, "The God of these sons of Israel is the true power. All that is written in the stories is true. They shall be lords of all the world in the latter end. A people shall come hither which will bring many things to you. And when the land shall be well provided, these sons of Yasharallah of Israel shall go out of their habitations, and shall become lords of all the earth, as it was theirs before." Just like it says in the book of Obadiah, the last verse. They will be saviors over the whole earth. "If you will be happy, join yourselves to them." The Indian, having made an end to relate the prediction of the Mohannas, the chiefs, or the sorcerers, followed on his discourse after this manner. "My fathers were caciques." What are caciques? I wrote over here, you had many caciques. You had Taino caciques, which Taino is a derogatory name. These were chiefs, originally born and raised, some in Haiti. Some were of the Arawak Indians. Here are some of the names. Enrique, all right, by the Spaniards. He was a Taino. Cacique, who rebelled against the Spaniards. You have many caciques, if I'm saying that right. These were leaders. And it says, indigenous elites were recognized in the West Indies, Mexico, and Peru by the Spanish. Caciquezagos is another name for them. We've heard of John Ogilvy. When he went into America, he ran into caciques. Right? So let's go back.
When we talk about the Taino, few people even know what we're talking about. Everyone knows the Aztec, everyone knows the Inca, everyone knows the Maya. You mentioned Taino and they go, who are these people?
The name Taino itself is the generic term for the late prehistoric peoples of the Greater Antilles and the Bahamas, the Big Islands, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica.
In terms of national identity, the people in Dominican Republic think of themselves as Indians, not as people of African ancestry.
These are the people that greeted Columbus. When Columbus arrived in the New World, there were several million Taino already here, living in the Greater Antilles.
Knowing more about the Tainos will help us understand that clash of cultures.
There's a large number of indigenous population of Taino that were decimated, assimilated, or just disappeared within the first 10 to 20 years of contact with the New World.
Let's go back up. It says, "My fathers were caciques." and there are yet 4 of them. These 5 caciques, then having heard what the Mahanas had foretold, as if they had been some of the sages of the Hebrews, came and took their habitations near that place, to see if they could get acquaintance with some of thy brethren. They satisfied their desire after a long time by the intercession of an Indian woman, because thy brethren would never speak to our fathers. And he of us that went into their lands did fall down dead, and none of thy brethren did pass over to us. This is dealing with sorceries, voodoo, all right, diseases. We therefore made a league with them by the means of the woman under these conditions. First, that 5 men, sons of 5 caciques, or their successors, should come to visit them every 70 moons. So they set up a pact between the Hebrews and some of the natives who were already here in America, which they called their brothers, but when they would come together, they would always have conditions that would cause them to die. It says here, and that none should come with them. Secondly, that the man to whom the secret was to be declared should be 300 moons old. And this is talking about months, 300 months, so you do the math. And that nothing of this be revealed to him in a place inhabited, but only in the open field. And when it should be revealed, that it should be in the company of all the caciques. So the leaders would get together and discuss times and plagues and events that were supposed to come into the earth. Thus then, said the Indian, we kept the secret amongst us, for the great reward which we hope, for the innumerable services which we have done to thy brethren. We cannot go to see them, but from 70 to 70 moons, if no new thing fall, or there have not been any in my time except thy arrival, which they have so much desired and waited for. I find no more but 3 new things according to my reckoning. The first, the arrival of the Spaniards in these countries. The second, that ships arrived in 1492, of course, South Sea. And the third is thy arrival. Of all 3, they have greatly rejoiced, for they say that the prophecies do come to pass. So the Israelites who were in the Americas knew that by Christopher Columbus and the Spaniards and the Portuguese coming over here, they knew that prophecies were about to jump off, which is 2 Esdras chapter 6 verse 9. Remember, Esdras was the one who had rewrote the Bible after it got lost and burned. And so these 10 tribes remembered the laws that was established from Esdras to the rest of the Israelites when they went back to Jerusalem. It says here, moreover, the said Matarinos declared that afterward he came to Honda, where the said Indian did bring to him 3 Indian young men, not telling him their names, till he told him that he might speak freely with them, seeing they were his companions, which whom he was in league, and that the other, namely the sick, was old, and for that cause was not able to come. The 3 Indians did embrace him affectionately, and asked him of what nation he was, to whom he answered that he was a Hebrew, nation of the tribe of Levi. And then they embraced him the second time, and said to him, Thou shalt see us one day, and shalt not know us. We are thy brethren by a special favor which God hath showed us. And have saluted him, they went away. The Indian Francis bid him also farewell, and that he went to speak with his brethren in the company of other caciques. As concerning this country, we have all the Indians at our command, and when we shall have made an end of these cruel Spaniards, We shall go and draw you out of the slavery wherein you are, if it please the Most High, which he will permit, because his word cannot fail. Finish. So as we saw this, and he's signing off here, Manasseh ben Israel. Okay, he received this in London, 1640. This guy, J. DeVry, received this in London, November 27, 1649. So this was a log. This was a log that was given from Matarinos to the people in Spain. All right. The interesting thing is that he met with these Israelites, and they said that they had a great war when they first got to the Americas, and then they started to go into different countries making war with various people, including their own brethren. You know, and after making war with their own brethren, they conquered them, and some of them they even put in captivity. Why do you think they put them in captivity? How about paganism? How about not listening to what they had to say? All right. How about them going astray from the laws? How about that? So, you know, we have a lot to learn from history. But for one thing, we do know that the Hebrews, the Israelites, by tribe, stated that they were here in the Americas, and that they were caciques, and that they made leagues with the people who were in the Americas. And with that, that should be enough to make your mind go boggle boggle. With that, I'm going to say shalom.
This is the word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.